Very similar to stage 2 and 3. We moved into stage 4 by closing the gate on stage 3. That closing of the gate automatically opened stage 4 and also opened two projects, two solicitation builder projects that are running in parallel during stage 4. Scott is assigned to one and Bogdan is assigned to the other one. We'll go take a look at that in Solicitation Builder and then come back and move into project oversight.
We could see here that there was an addendum for this particular solicitation. We are now moving to stage 4, assuming the state is either negotiating with one vendor or they're actually making changes to the actual contract. What most procurement officials will do is when they are negotiating that contract, very similar to the addendum mode, they will put on the track changes for everybody. And now, if anyone comes in to this document, we can actually see the changes that are being made as vendors and the state negotiate that contract. So as you can see, we have a guest contributor that has been invited called Essential Services. There can be many of these folks who are invited into the contract. And as you remember, the permissioning of a guest contributor means that the state can say and allow these guest contributors to only come in those sections, not in sections where there's boiler template. And the bigger component of this is that, as you remember, when you allow track changes, we can see their pen and we can see where they're actually making changes, what type of changes they're making, so everything is visible to the state when they are negotiating. So let's actually go down and see if any one of these vendors is currently in any of our sections or in a particular section. So here, as we're going down, we can see where vendors are allowed to come in. So they're able to come in here and make edits, but you can see they're not allowed to come in into any of these other sections that are locked. So if we were to go into one of these sections that's currently in progress with that yellow mark. So when we come into key personnel changes and we're editing our section, I can see here all the users, myself, anybody else here. We see essential services are in here. And let's see if there are any changes that have been made as they are in. And you can see that as Accenture is making changes to the document. You can see this in real time. You can see this if they were already made. We can come in and see that they want to increase the notification of any key personnel changes to 60 days. We can actually make comments here. The state requires 30 days mandatory. We can respond here to those changes. Once we have requested the vendors to stop making their changes by, and it could be by a specific time and a date, you saw just now live changes that were being made, but the real value in having a database like Solicitation Builder is then to actually run a summary of changes. So we've been tracking the changes, the vendor had the pen in making those changes. We're able to click on create a summary of changes. And what that does is it tells us exactly where those changes were made and what type of changes were made. So here you can see there were 4 changes in that section, 13 are key personnel changes. So we're able then to go into that section or those sections and see what changes were made. We can track them, we can take notes, and we can use this as a working document and a living document that we can utilize with our vendors. And we can say, okay, great, we can now stop global track changes and allow them to restart after restarting those track changes if we need to keep going back and forth. Now, finally, what you have is you have control of your contracting document as you're negotiating that contract. The great thing is at the end of this, you can store these carve outs, these terms and conditions that may have been changed not only in the SAL, but let's say there was legal boilerplate language that was changed, let's say in a GSPD 401 IT. We want to ensure that we take a snapshot of all those changes and we can store these carve outs and we can actually push that document to ServiceNow and actually then share it in ServiceNow or SharePoint. So again, if in 6 months, in a year, we need to go back and look at the changes we had negotiated with that vendor, we have a record, which currently is not the case. And then once you finish negotiating the contract and adding in the purchase order, we actually pass this back to ServiceNow to now begin the process of the DocuSign or Adobe Sign, whatever may be of your choice.